back, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the Tier 6 Achilles. This is a tank destroyer in the British line. This leads to the Tier 10 FV 4005, as you can see here, which also people have called the shit barn. But this thing has a monstrous 183. It's a beast of a tank if you can manage to play it right, because it doesn't have a lot of armor. And this is also reflected in this Tier 6 Achilles. But the Achilles itself, I've found that it's not too bad of a tank for a Tier 6. It's paper thin, doesn't have a lot of armor. The gun is decent, and the mobility is not too bad either. But because of the thin armor, you kind of have to play it very carefully and kind of watch what your team's doing and kind of go from there. But I also decided that I want to change the format of the review. A lot of people will show some Ace Tanker gameplay afterwards, but I thought it would be more interesting to just after we get done reviewing it, I'm going to compare it to a couple of tanks here. But then I just want to click battle, and what we get is what we get, and we can kind of go from there. And you can kind of see that even though it says here that I have a 70% win rate in this tank, so I play it fairly well. Granted, I only have 27 battles in it, but yeah. So I figured that would be a better format than showing how professionals do it. I mean, obviously I play this tank fairly decently, but even I have bad games, and you'll kind of learn that not everybody has excellent games all the time. The good players aren't, having monumental games. They have a game where they'll do well, and usually those are the ones that get showcased. Those are the ones they show on YouTube, things like that. But I want to actually see, I mean, we may have the luck of the draw, and we may have a good game, or it could be one of those where you get one, maybe two shots of damage, and Artie finds you, and you just get obliterated. So I figured we'd keep it real and do it, try it that way. So let's look at some comparative stats for the various Tier 6 tank destroyers, which I have on tanks.gg. I've pulled up, I've got the Achilles here, the AT8, and the Jackson. So both the Achilles and the AT8 are British, and then the Jackson is from the US. You can see the Jackson and the Achilles look very similar. And then the AT8 obviously is a non-turreted tank destroyer. These are very strong in the game right now because of the amount of armor they have and the fire rate. So I thought that would be a good comparison, just so you can kind of compare the stats of the tanks, the differences, and kind of get a feel for where the Achilles sits in comparison to the other Tier 6 tank destroyers. So let's jump right into it. So we got firepower. DPM is 2133. The AT8 is 2182, and the Jackson is 1877. So the Jackson kind of falls short on that one. Let's see here. The Jackson has, let's see if we can find it. Weaponry. Okay, so it's got a 90 millimeter gun on that, which, let's go back to the comparison. Hang on. There we go. Whereas the Achilles has a 76 millimeter gun. So the gun differences will make a lot of the difference here. But the penetration, so let's see, let's find the alpha. Why am I not seeing that? Ah, here we are. 90 millimeter, 76.2, which is the same for this and the AT8. The potential damage for the clips, 7,500 for the Achilles, 9,000 for the AT8, and a whopping 11,280 for the Jackson, because it has a larger alpha and 47 rounds versus the same for the Achilles and the AT-8, which have 50 and 60 respectively. So the damage here is what separates this Jackson from the others. The Achilles and the AT-8 will both do 150 damage, average alpha damage, and the Jackson is around 240. The shell velocity, you can see that the 90 millimeters is a little bit slower. Other than that, they're fairly similar. The reload time, obviously, for the 90 millimeters is going to be a little bit slower. Gun handling, the aim time I've found is somewhat abysmal with the Achilles. You have to sit there for, according to the stat, at 1.82 versus the AT-8 and the Jackson both have an aim time of 1.63. So those will aim faster. The dispersion is the same on the AT-8 and the Achilles with the same gun, whereas the Jackson has slightly more dispersion, so you won't get your reticle to come down quite as far for accuracy. But you can see the Jackson is fairly mobile as far as the dispersion while moving during tank traverse and during turret traverse. Obviously, the AT-8 doesn't have a turret, so this isn't. I think this might cover the gun traverse. So firing is the same. Damage, elevation. So the AT-8 does not have a lot of gun elevation, so if you see one of those pointed downhill and you can manage to get above it, it won't be able to get the gun up very high because it only has 7.5 degrees of elevation. And so gun depression, which I think is a very important stat. The Achilles has 5 degrees, AT-8 has 5, but the Jackson has a whopping 10 degrees of gun depression, which means you can poke over that hill and you can keep this turret, a minimum of the turret exposed so that you don't show that hull. As far as mobility, the Achilles I was surprised to find as mobile as it is. It's 48 forward, 48 kilometers per hour forward, 13 in reverse. It's got a good engine power of 500, and it's the lightest of all three of these. Obviously the AT-8 is going to be heavy because it's a non-turreted TD. It's built for armor. It's built to withstand shots and not have a lot of mobility at the same time. Power to weight ratio, the Achilles has got 17.68 horsepower per ton, which is great because that gives it the ability to get up and going, and it also has the lowest terrain resistance of all three as well, which means it can move across that soft terrain, whether it's soft, medium, or hard, and it'll do it at a better, it'll have less resistance than the other two. The turret traverse, I think on the Achilles is really slow. It's 16.69 degrees per minute? No, per second, I think. Yes, sorry. So it just seems like if you're aiming on one side of the map and you turn that turret, it seems like it takes days for it to get to the other side. So it's not meant to be in the front lines. It's meant to provide support, you know, be in the back, be unseen. The tank traverse though is really good. I mean, 35.46, so you can traverse the tank itself, traverse the hull, and you can get that gun around faster. Obviously, if you get tracked, you're going to have a hard time keeping that gun up with a tank that's flanking you and being able to get shots into it. And here's that the armor that I was mentioning earlier, where it has pretty much no armor. I mean, so the hull has 38 millimeters, 38.1 millimeters of frontal armor. The AT-8 has 203. Keep in mind, this is a tier 6 tank destroyer, so that AT-8 is very strong from the front. A lot of people will probably dab that 2 key and fire the premium, aim for the cupola that's on top that you can see right here, this big hatch. But the Jackson has 114 millimeters of hull armor, but look at this right here. No side armor. None on the Achilles. It's The AT-8's got 101.6. The Jackson's at least got 25 for side armor. So anything, and I mean anything, that hits the side of the Achilles is going to penetrate. Anything. So it's got 19.1 on the rear. I'm not sure why the rear is stronger than the sides, but that's the way the model works. It's got 25 millimeters of side armor on the Jackson, with 25 on the rear also. The turret, obviously these are zeros for the AT-8 because it doesn't have one, but the turret has 57.2 millimeters of armor. For the Jackson, it gets a little bit better. It's got 76, and then 25.4 for the Achilles on the sides and the rear, and 25 on the sides and rear for the Jackson. So it's similar in that aspect, but you can see that the armor is worse across the board. So the track armor is the same for both the turreted tank destroyers. The health, you can see, is a little bit more on the Achilles. You get 640 hit points versus the 590 for the Jackson. But as you can see, the Jackson has a little bit better armor and is more mobile than the AT-8. But the AT-8 has 800 hit points. So the rest of the ammo rack health, you can see it's only 170. So you're actually more likely to get ammo racked in the Achilles than you are in the Jackson or the AT-8. And then coming down to view range, it's the same for the turreted tank destroyers. It's only 330 for the AT-8, which is kind of expected. Radio range is a lot better on the Jackson than it is for the Achilles. Fire chance is slimmer on the Jackson. And then you've got the tank cost. So the tank cost for the Achilles is 930,000 credits versus the 884 for the Jackson. So with the Achilles, you're getting little less. You're getting less armor, less ammo, and it actually costs more, which kind of surprised me. But it's not a bad tank altogether. The shell cost, as you can see, is cheaper than the 90 millimeter that's on the Jackson, so it has that going for it. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad tank, the Achilles. I've actually had a fair amount of decent games, and I think it plays fairly well. If you manage yourself well in the battle and you can stay out of the thick of things and keep from getting shot at without you being able to shoot at your enemies, I think it's a fair tank and you can make it work. So that being said, let's jump right in and see what we get for matchmaking. So this does get tier 6 to 8. So it doesn't have the premium matchmaking on it, which you wouldn't expect from anything in the tank tree usually. So let's hit the battle button here and see what we get. This is a 5-10 split. So we got 5 tier 7s and then the 10 tier 6s. And we are on one of the smaller maps. We got mines. So because I want to keep this tank invisible and be able to put shots in, if it was not turreted, I would probably definitely go back here. I think what I might end up doing is going over here on the C line, and we'll see where our team goes as well. So let's see if we can get some to come with us. Looks like the majority of our team is going to the mid. Try to take that hill that's so important. We got one auto loader up there. The T-71 gonna go? He is. Oh wow, IKV 65 too. That is unexpected. We got a lot of resistance there. look like we're getting a lot, and not being top tier, I'm not entirely reluctant. And he missed his shot. We'll track him. Everybody put shots in. There's 3 artillery, so I'm going to move up behind this building so I can try to stay out of line of fire. And already splashed him. The 3485 is moving in. Is he still looking at me? No, he's not. Side of the turret is open. Fires. We're going to track him again. And as you can see, they've got a fair amount of tanks over here. This Cromwell looks like he's trying to get an angle in. And as you can see, it's slow back at speed. So we're going to get out of the way of that Cromwell, see if we can get downhill and not get shot in the way. Nope. T-150 is going to hit us. Nobody's shooting this guy. We got a lot of company here. We can get some fire in on this guy. And T-150 hits us again. So, like I was saying, sometimes you only get one shot in. At this low tier, it all depends on your team. Let's keep an eye on this. Let's look for KV2. Okay, finally get that 150 killed off. As you can see up here on top, we're technically down on hit points. But at the same time, we have more tanks alive than they do. And it looks like they cleared out this area over here. They finally got that cleared. Now they just got to get in here and maybe get this this one line. What I'm hoping they do is that this guy can come down. You can see that everything's been spotted, so they don't have anything over here. So if this T-3485 comes down here, he can brawl with this or spot for anybody that gets shots in. Doesn't look like we're going to have anything that will be able to, but he may be able to. As you can see, the 34-100 has about half health. The BK is about half health also. If we can get our arty to hit a target. And you see how the arty is all gathered together here in the back? It's a bad idea to have all your arty sitting in one spot, because then you all have the same direction of fire on the targets. If we had an arty out here and maybe one snuck down here, then they could at least get some different angles. You can take somebody who's hiding behind a rock and you just berate them until it's all said and done. Ooh, there's a good shot by Artie. A BK for 228. KV2's hoping for RNG, doesn't get it. This IS is going to come down, which is not necessarily a good idea with a Hellcat in the back. Luckily the Hellcat bounced that shot, so the IS maintains its health. The IS is top tier. Artie's going to start berating that Hellcat. KV2's going to hopefully fire an 8. Oh, there we go. There's the BK. KV2 hoping for some RNG. Not today. Oh, that's a bad idea, IS. Yeah, it looks like this one's going to be a failure. Perhaps I should have gone to back at A4 and hidden in the bushes. I really wasn't expecting that little amount of support, especially with 3 artillery. Usually your artillery can get fire in here and give you some decent support, but as you can see, that didn't happen this time. So that M44 did come down. He's wow. I think he might have been in the non-overhead view. and because he hit way back here, so I think he was just aiming generally at it. So yeah, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some, and this looks like it's one of those that's a lose some. So let's see if we can get a better one. Maybe, maybe not. Look at the post game at least. We should have had some decent spotting damage. Nope, only 144. We only got one shot. Took 5 shots. 4 of them hit. It was just bad angles on that T150 and 1 pen. So actually, let's look here. Obviously, that T150 with the derp on it, as we'll say, because it does about 300 damage. As you could see, it just tore me to shreds, and he did fairly well. The VK is a strong tank, and you can see the Artie did well. It's an 800, I think it's an 800 millimeter or excuse me, meter map, so it's really small. Not the best result, but yeah, it's a fairly strong tank as it is. With that map, it was really hard for us to get into a bush and kind of sit in the back. So let's do one more. Alright, so we got Wide Park, and we are topped here. It's another 5-10 split. So we are on the south side. Let's see. We've got an OI. Hopefully the OI will be able to hold the 1-2 line, because that tank is fairly strong. It's got a good amount of armor, especially when it's topped here. It is really a force to be reckoned with. So we may end up, depending on, well, we'll keep an eye on the map, and we'll see if their team pushes the 1-2 line. A lot of times the enemy team, when you're on the south, the enemy team will have, I don't know, half the team over there guarding this little channel right here. There's the early spots, which happens a lot of the time. Looks like a lot of our team is going up there, so we may want to be ready to bail out of this position. And there is 3 artillery, so excuse me, 4. So you can see they're already blind firing or firing at whatever's around. So we're just going to use this ridge to our advantage. If we can get a spotter, hopefully this M4 will go light something up. Yeah, there's something over there that's just blind fire in this hill. Oh, now they moved. Panzer 4H has a mean gun on it. KV-220 is pushing over on the west side. Let's see if we can get a shot through these buildings. I think he's behind the rail cars out there. No joy. Like I said, this tank is really designed for sitting in the back, shooting that way. So let's see if we, oh, that's what we didn't want to see. So we are going to bail out of here. And we want to get into position where we don't have to worry about that Panzer 4. He's aiming at us, I'm sure. If he hits us, that will be very detrimental to our health. And the T-14 is invisible at 300 meters. Sure thing. So we're going to repair and we're going to get out of here. Hopefully. Two tanks is not going to be able to hold that guy off. T14 is a premium tank, has a fairly decent rate of fire. And the Panzer IV-H is also fairly strong. It's got a derp gun on it that'll do a fairly high amount of damage, actually. This T67 is a good stat padding tank. People play the heck out of it. The 67 thinks he's got the bull by the horns here. Artillery. Come on, Stug. Oh, see, there's that slow turret traverse. Oh, this is not good. There's T14. Well, let's go over here and join the heavies. Get that Panzer IV-H out. So if we're going to be able to pull this out, it's going to take a lot of work. And we have a toaster. Oh shoot. And there's why Artie is so fair and balanced in this game. No matter how good of a match you can do, you can have an Artie at tier 6 hit you for 422, which is the remainder of our health, mind you. So it probably would have hit for a lot more than that. I've been hit by artillery in this tank, and one shot and I was dead. So this tank, when you keep getting the small maps like this, it's really hard to play well. I'm sure there's people who can make me look completely silly with it. But, so yeah. Oh, I had a decent game, and you can see that BDR that was hiding over there didn't do any damage, neither did our Panzer IV-H or M4, and these are two of the derp tanks. If this M4 was running the big gun. So it looks like today's just not the good day for the Achilles. And you can see here we're down to 66% with the win rate, which makes sense. But you can see average damage here is over 700. So I still don't think that it's overall a very bad tank. I think it's a good tank if you can get a team that works fairly well, and you can get a map that you can actually move around and use a fair amount of cover, with the exception of obviously on Wide Park. There's only that one corner really that has camouflage for you, and as you can see, we didn't send a lot of people there, so they ended up pushing the T67 and the T14, which is a really well armored for its tier heavy tank. So hey, kind of get what you get. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Yeah, it's got no side armor and not a lot of armor in general, so it's it can be a fairly difficult tank to play, as you can see from the two battles that we did with it. But yeah, overall not bad. It kind of depends on it's very dependent on your team being able to provide support and spotting and being able to snipe with it. So in the Wide Park case, you can see we didn't have anybody spotting, so we didn't have anything to shoot at, and by the time they were spotted, they were in very close range, and they would have been able to tear us apart because we wouldn't be able to bounce much, if at all. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and leave any comments in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the like, and don't forget to subscribe for future content, so that you can be notified when I post new videos, and you can follow along. So thank you again for watching, and we will see you next time.